The Big Red Couch, a podcast about making role-playing games. A group of GMs and players draw ideas from the mystery box and bring their game pitches to you.
Hello listeners, and welcome to episode 95 of The Big Red Couch. It's time for the Death Robot.
That time in every young man's life when his thoughts likely turn to those of death robots.
Oh, that was a magical summer.
Indeed. Well,
should we introduce ourselves or something?
I don't know if there's any point. I mean, it's death robot time. Well, what would we get out of... Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Craig. And we're talking about death robots, apparently.
It took us 95 episodes to get to death robots. How about that?
That's less time than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah?
It kind of felt like a triple figures thing to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, actually, if you want to look big picture, within the next decade, we will see the first automated weapons system casualty on a battlefield, I bet you.
It seems likely, yeah.
Well, considering we've got Roombas mapping out the floor plans of homes and drones of all varieties either being expressly directed to drop munitions or just falling on people, it seems like a natural progression.
I'm just wondering whether that casualty on a battlefield is actually going to be of the correct side, or whether it's going to be, as it were, an own goal or a bystander.
Well, that's the thing about robots, right? Provided all the checksums match out, it's a goal. It takes all of the... Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't take the culpability out of friendly fire. It's kind of like, there might have been a bug. Red, blue, when you're just measuring the nanometer Armstrong wavelength, it's all very similar.
Yeah, it was a fog that day. And if many episodes of science fiction TV shows and various movies have taught me anything, and I think the jury's still out on that one, it's that the robots will inevitably turn upon their creators. So, I just hope that battlefield casualty, if it is an own goal, turns out to be the traditional bunch of arrogant and pompous Pentagon types. And I say Pentagon types in the grounds of, the rear echelon motherfucker types who were there being annoying and advancing the test before it's ready. I mean, this happened a lot in Eureka from recollection.
It probably is actually just going to be the one corpsman who made the off-color your motherboard joke, and it'll go south from there.
Very nice. Nicely done.
So, with that bleak estimation of humanity's impending doom, possibly attacked by knife-wielding Roombas.
Wasn't there one of those in questionable content?
I think it was an internet thing for a time, people taping kitchen knives to various animate objects, including Roombas and crabs, and going, look, they're fighting.
And then, oh god, it's after my leg.
Why does it know so much about tendons?
Why is there a sequence of beeps saying, I'm going to gut you like it shows in Grey's Pathology? Who programmed that? Anyway, I think we've set the tone for the episode nicely.
Indeed.
For this one, the area that I am not going into is I don't want to pitch, run, or in any way come up with a game about euthanasia robots.
Oh, why not? That sounds like a perfect kind of Nordic LARP thing. They'd just be ecstatic, well, in a sort of somber way.
If there are any Nordic LARPers listening, please write in and tell us how you would do a game about euthanasia bots that isn't horrible.
No, the point of Nordic Life is that it is horrible, and you experience the full grinding horror of the circumstance. So from what I've heard, they're very, very big on the authenticity and emotional content of the experience.
Right. In that case, I might be steering clear of Nordic art, because that sounds way too intense for me.
It probably won't involve an actual death robot, but, maybe.
I'm not sure now.
So, setting aside euthanasia robot, what did you feel was appropriate for our wonderful audience?
I've got sort of an idea and a half. And so the idea is oddly the fault of the folks at Monkeys Took My Jetpack.
Mm-hmm.
I decided that I would go back and listen to just a few of the first episodes. Just one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm up to like episode 22 or 23 at this point. So it looks like I'm just going to listen to all of them at this stage. That seems likely. They were doing a Funkadelic Frankenstein on the mean streets of Monster Town, and as a dumb fact for the episode, we discover that Prometheus Jones, of the Prometheus Jones Detective Agency, when he was in college, was roommates with the Grim Reaper.
That makes sense.
Which then led me to think with this one, and also based a little bit on the radio series Old Harry's game, of the idea that, Reapers have been around, well, well, practically forever, dealing with the whole reaping business. And I'm pitching this as a Funkadelic Frankenstein game. So it's set in 70s monster exploitation territory.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, other options are coming up for young reapers, other job options. It used to be you're a reaper, you go into, as it were, the family business.
Right.
That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other options now, and young reapers don't really want to go into that business. And so in an effort to keep the business going, there was the apprenticeship scheme. That really didn't work out very well. So now with the advent of microelectronics in the 70s, they're trying a different approach, and they're going automated.
Right, of course. Since, the robots are there to do the jobs that humans won't do. Well, reapers won't do in this case.
Yes. The death robot is the answer. And naturally, it's gone horribly, horribly wrong. And so I rather like the idea of the Grim Reaper turning up at the Prometheus Jones Detective Agency, possibly during a thunderstorm or something, because that would always look good, then asking for their help because the experimental death robot has gone a little bit weird.
Well, on the face of it, it seems like a good idea because, the robots don't sleep or breathe. And, they're probably only clanks and whistles a little bit at this point in technological history.
I figure it'll look a little bit like a Walkman, like scaled up, but it'll have that sort of blocky, plasticky thing.
Oh, right. So it's the same aesthetic as a Walkman. So, yeah, a little bit child's toy, a little bit toyetic, but possibly, it's just draped in a big oversized robe with bits of plastic and metal peeking out and with the cuffs and under the hood.
Perspex scythe, possibly with a light up action.
Right. So in what way would the death robot have run amok, as robots inevitably do? I mean, I'm sure every robotist knows that they have to build in the runs amok section of the programming.
It's like a base level thing at one point. The killing rampage, red mist killing rampage driver. Yes, I did wonder in the movie Big Hero 6 why they had different coloured lights for the eyes of Baymax for when he went.
Maybe it's a built-in safety features. Like if a robot approaches you and it has red glowing eyes, it is currently in killing rampage mode. Please act accordingly and get to a safe distance. Maybe since it is one of the other laws of robotics, the obvious antithesis of the established laws, maybe they're just designing it in. It's like a safety feature.
It'd be entertaining if there was basically, the default state of the eyes is red, unless there is code running that is actively scanning all potential actions for breaches of the laws of robotics. If the Asimov routine is running, then it deactivates the eyes. Otherwise, it doesn't.
It's like a not conscious, but it's an active switch to go to a nice, friendly, reassuring green. So, and if you're instructing a robot to do something and it briefly flickers red, maybe don't push it so much. Maybe be less of a dick to the robot. It could be useful.
Yeah, feedback system. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, killing rampage a la Santabot from Futurama seems a bit boring.
Okay. I would go with that, but that's me.
If you wanted to do this as a one-shot, then Deathbot has gone on Killing Rampage because it gives you the possibility of having a Killing Rampage where everybody gets better.
As in...
Well, if you assume this is a robot that is somehow going around and separating the soul from the body...
Ah, right.
Well, presumably if you knew what you were doing, given that the body, other than not having a soul in it, is basically okay...
Right.
You could presumably stuff it back in there.
Presumably the Reapers know what to do, but they can't sort the problem out and keep tabs on the rampaging death robot. So they need the Prometheus Jones Detective Agency to help them sort this problem. Okay, so they can speedily restore the situation to your normal mortal coil shuffling process.
The other one, if you're doing with a slightly longer campaign version, it would be kind of entertaining to have the situation of people just dropping dead, as it were, and then their ghosts continuing to hang around, basically reporting that they'd been murdered by the Grim Reaper, which of course is just a legal nightmare because how do you get murdered by death? That makes no sense. And then the actual Grim Reaper shows up and explains, well, look, here's what's going on. We tried this automation thing and...
Okay.
Because that sort of gives you your mid-plot twist of clearly the Grim Reaper has gone amok. He's gone rogue. Well, yes and no.
He's subcontracting, and he's having a bit of problem with the whole enthusiasm levels.
Indeed.
that ties in with something that I was speaking with a couple of people, in fact, an old schoolmate of mine, and somebody I talked to at dinner last night. Both had a similar sort of idea. Rather than it's being a robot for death, it is a death that is robotic, as in a character. Like possibly, if you want to offset the murderous rampage from your first one, is the suggestion that Timo gave me, was that the Grim Reaper is robotic. It's not actually there killing anyone. It's just stochastically predicting people that people are going to die, and then hanging around in a very kind of unsettling fashion. Statistically speaking, you've been dead for 30 minutes, but since I've been staring at you, you haven't moved. And they were supposed to go outside and get run over.
But instead they're not moving because the death robot's there.
The death robot's staring at them.
Possibly similar to the situation in the show Dead Like Me, where you've got Reapers turning up at the appropriate moment to effectively make the collection. So I think in the case of the robotic system, either it's turning up and just staring creepily while it waits to make the collection, or if we go with the it's all gone horribly wrong, it's done some time and motion studies, figured out that this would be a lot more efficient if it simply used a predictive algorithm and made the collection a little bit earlier, and sort of it could do its rounds faster and more efficiently.
Just bump up the pathing a little.
I mean, eventually it's going to end up at the 2000 AD death judges thing of, well, this would be a lot easier if everybody was dead to start with.
The crime is life. The sentence is death.
Yeah, that wasn't creepy at all.
No, not at all. Sorry.
Particularly over a slightly crackly internet connection. That was, that was impressively soothing.
Judge Death. What a cuddly fellow. Which reminds me very quickly of, I think it was for the 500 prog, a couple of comedy kind of things that they did. The Judge Death one had him gasping and choking and so forth, and his would-be victims like, oh, you should have some of these decongestant tombs lollies. He's these are wonderful, and immediately squeezes the heart of the person who gave these things. And of course, the tagline is tombs help you bereave more easily.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, why?
It's also the possibility that Timo also chucked me a cool short cartoon film called The Backwater Bible. It's basically like about a terrible rundown, possibly western town with an overzealous preacher and a series of unfortunate events, seemingly spurred on by the fact that this crusty old guy in a flock of crows has just turned up in the middle of town and is wigging everyone out because it's obviously death. And the presence of the guy who is obviously death causes quite a lot of death. It's very interestingly animated, and it's like 3D animation wrapped in illustrated textures. A style a little bit like Jamie Hewlett's, who's worked on Gorillas, a little bit like that. Maybe there's a little bit of inspiration there. He'd also did the art for Tank Girl, so it's a little bit, it's a little similar to that. But yes, it's quite well animated, but interesting. And the creepy death guy is pretty creepy.
I mean, I'm not sure how you take down a death robot, because presumably the robot is or can be somewhat incorporeal. Then again, maybe that's the problem with the early version of it. Okay, yeah, if you're going for the out-and-out comedy, the death robot is programmed around the idea of being incorporeal, of being able to walk through walls and all that sort of thing, and goes through stuff. But it actually isn't. So what it's actually doing is
walking through walls. Yes.
Yeah, you've got the family clustered around the bed. Somebody's about to breathe their last, and there's this smash as the robot walks through the wall, does something with the scythe, and then walks out through the other wall, possibly over the bed.
Yes. Kaboom, clatter.
So finding it isn't actually an issue.
Yes.
Or finding where it's been isn't actually an issue, but it seems to do that annoying thing of just completely vanishing the rest of the time.
I can definitely see the idea, especially if it was a very boxy, like tin toy kind of robot that just blunders through a wall, goes, be not afraid, they are in a better place, as it whirls its scythe, just like a helicopter blade, and then batters its way through the next wall, not onto its next appointed round. Well, we didn't think it would take on the mannerisms quite as wholeheartedly as it was.
Go with sort of weird super science, so it's got its Jacob's ladder or Tesla coil powered etheric communicator, so there's sort of bolts of lightning going all over the room, lighting up the shade of the deceased as it talks to them.
Have it genuinely and enthusiastically trying to do its job, just in the least appropriate way.
You're just really, really bad at it. Kind of want to play in that now.
That would be some fun. I'm not sure how you'd probably want to literally make it unkillable. Somehow it has adopted the mantle of death and is basically indestructible. So you've got to kind of talk it around, explain how death is normally like a presence rather than...
So you're basically trying to teach it subtlety.
Maybe do the handsome Starfleet captain logic bomb its mind or something like that. But, the solution should be at least as ridiculous as the problem.
I'd probably just throw it out there and let the players come up with a solution. I mean...
Oh, yeah, no. You've got to... You encourage a solution as ridiculous as the problem. That's where you're going.
I had a bunch of players solve the problem of disco zombies using incredibly bland food at one point.
Yes.
Didn't see that one coming.
Oh, you reminded me. I had a pad thai the other week. It was so Caucasian. Oh, it's like peanuts with like the flavor high note and the whole thing.
It's the first time I've ever heard of food being described of as so Caucasian.
It was whiter than I am. You'll agree, I'm pretty fucking white. So
well, you do shun the sun and indeed strong reflections.
You can't trust. You don't know where it's been. Come on. So yes, I think that's a bit of an amalgamation of the ideas that were suggested. Some of the ideas that were suggested to me. I quite like several of the approaches to that. Somewhere between the overly efficient and the overly comic.
You could cut the middle ground and have the robot. It's got the ethereal bit, but it hasn't got the invisible bit. And it just sort of comes in through the wall, leaving these horrifying robot-shaped scourge marks.
If you were looking that way, you could see it coming. And it's just hovering around the locality, picking up souls. But it's not good for business. It's just very upsetting for everyone concerned.
I am loving the idea of the communication with the deceased of, do not be afraid, your family cannot see me. Meanwhile, the family are clustered at the corner of the room, sort of pointing and screaming at the thing that they can obviously see.
Really see the air ionizing around it. It might be invisible. Its impression on the world isn't.
And it's sort of left the comedy muscle match scorch mark on the wall as it goes through.
Nice.
This is a terrible game idea.
It is.
And I don't think it's our worst one yet, because we did that a little while ago.
There are some things some bars you have to keep in mind. So you're always reaching for those stars.
I forget what our worst idea ever was.
Oh, that was the genre hopping game that.
Oh, that!
Like the players wrestling with an adversary across different genres. Not sure. I think it was probably the most complicated, unwieldy idea ever. I don't think it's our most tasteless one.
I think that's probably the commoditized anonymous intelligence aggregator business pitch.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or the Soylent Bubba one.
The Soylent Bubba one is probably, that's going to be hard to
Where
stop.
you refuse to have anything whatsoever to do with the idea for entirely valid reasons.
I thought, if there was anything I was going to nope out of, I thought, yeah.
Soylent Bubba is a reasonable one to do, yeah. Okay, so after that bizarre little trip down memory lane.
95 episodes. There's a lot of scars, folks.
Yeah.
Was that an idea and a half, or half an idea, or not the first half?
That was an idea. I have a half an idea, but I maybe want to save that one for a bit later in the show.
I'm not satisfied with what I've come up with yet. I think it needs a bit more work. So that is the point of the whole exercise. A little bit of the way it's written and a little bit of the way the statement is formed. I'm seeing very much a Running Man, Welcome to the Thunderdome announcer kind of thing.
Okay, so it's a really fucked up game show.
Oh yeah, and this is of course the high point of the thing. This is a little like I dimly remember watching American Gladiators all those years ago. I anticipate everyone in the show was a gladiator of some sort, but the shows the non-contestants, the gladiators themselves, they big them up and so forth. But yeah, the idea that you've gone to the point where the teams have fanned out into the ruined part of the city, and it's the time for that everyone's been looking for. It's time for the death robot to bump up the stakes and the ratings at the appropriate moment. Don't know how I'd build a game around that.
If we take Running Man as the basis, because that does the job nicely, and you had the home audience, you had the in-theater audience, you had the really annoying presenter.
Killian, yeah.
Then that kind of fits with the "it's time for the death robot." Woo! People go crazy. Money changes hands because apparently they're betting on this shit. I mean, it feels like a survival game. It's probably, falls into the category of not quite your last man standing sort of game, but maybe.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes sort of role-playing games sort of situation difficult because, the players will quickly work out they don't have to run faster than the death robot.
You could go with something like, I'm not sure if it ever actually got published, but there was a playtest that was podcast by Fred Hicks of Evil Hat a number of years ago now about a game he was working on called Escape or Die, which was all about, well, that sort of movie, your Escape from Absalom, Running Man, etc. movies where you've got a group of people, not all of them are going to make it out of the film. By that token, I mean, zombie cinema could do it, but I don't feel doesn't quite have the right vibe.
It's more of an all-encompassing Doom. Yeah, interesting element. I was thinking of it. I've been playing a video game called Wasted. It's a couple of things. It's a little bit deep. It's a alcohol-themed piss take of Fallout. It's a procedural first-person shooter kind of thing where you delve into the coolers left behind after the apocalypse, where people were supposed to have been preserved cryogenically and ended up being mutated into strange monsters, and all of their potable beverages turning into basically magic potions that give you superpowers.
See, that has never happened to me, no matter how long I have left a bottle of Coke Zero in the fridge. I feel cheated.
You probably should have used Fruitopia.
I don't even know what Fruitopia is, but it sounds awful already.
It's something from the 90s. It's the kind of, it was, yes.
That'll be
It was
why.
kind of watery fruit juice. Hey, they had an advertisement with a Cocteau Twins soundtrack.
That is a very weird choice for a fruit juice. A meditation retreat, yes. Fruit juice, not so much.
Anywho, it has an aspect where if you get killed exploring these vaults, you don't have save points. You just get a new wastrel comes in out of the desert, finds the shack where you've been keeping your stuff, and the adventure continues. And
so you're just now the new wastrel. Okay,
you just do the wastrel. And when you find there's some hip flasks of these brews which are random and a bit brutal. Some of them good, some of them bad. But there's ones at the end of every 3 levels that you can pick up, and you are knocked out, but you get a permanent special ability. And the idea is to actually collect things, survive the traps and creatures and so forth, which is all coming at you pretty fast. But to make sure that no one is taking too much time, there is a member of, the Sanctimonious Order of Buzzkills, SOBs, which is an obvious acronym, but is also a reverse of the Brotherhood of Steel, which is a minigun, which is like the Brotherhood of Steel, minigun toting power armor guy who follows you into the vault and slowly hunts you down. And makes the whole thing, because the thing can branch, you may not go to the correct end of the tree the first time. The guy starts off a little bit after you, can make the whole thing quite precarious. So the idea of something pursuing the players into this dangerous game show kind of environment is something I've definitely been thinking of in that context. Because what's a very silly, especially if it's on special, it's worth a punt. It's a very silly, cartoony aesthetic. It's all dumb puns and things like that. It's an Adult Swim game. That should tell you a fair amount. But it would be a very different game, and though you can, I think, mod it out at this point, it would be a very different game without this lurking presence that's following you along. I mean, it has a glowing red headlamp which lights the wall it's looking at, and it has its own soundtrack that mutes the other stuff, which is all terrible 80s crap because it's all 80s themed as well, just so you know what you're getting into. That really, 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 because it's Adult Swim, they've got access to musicians and so forth, and people have done not covers of generic 80s rock. It's quite impressive.
Oh, sort of sound alike.
It sounds like it's like, that's eerily familiar. But yes, this creeping death with a minigun won't kill you immediately, but if you get stun locked against a wall, you're screwed. Something that mechanically gives you this incentive to move forward and take risks. And after a while, you've piled up. You've collected enough. The only thing that increases your carrying capacity are attaching more fanny packs and bum bags to your character. But you have basically collected some decent armored garments and some decent weapons. You've got some ammunition because it's all very resource intensive. Initially, and after a while, you just plow forward, trying to get to the next sort of the better gear and the better stuff further down. But initially, you are just being shoved along by this presence, which is quite interesting take on it. I mean, I suppose it would be a way of making a dungeon crawl quite brutal, or at least a dungeon crawling kind of scenario.
You've got this remorseless thing following. It would ratchet up the tension because, yes, then you can't do the whole thing of, well, we're going to stop and rest up here and get all of our spells back before we assault this room.
Or at very least, you're going to like, okay, we put a trap in this room, because you can get quite creative with stacking things up, but you may just barbecue yourself doing it. But yeah, you want to say, okay, so we will get warning one room away that it's coming, but we're not sure how long it's going to be. So, yeah.
So you want a nice noisy trap.
Yep. One that might slow it down, at least for a little while.
Explosive runes or something. So it's just you can hear the bang from behind you.
Yep.
I had a thought about the game show variant.
Yep.
And if you were going with this, actually works because I mean the same sort of game. People dying as game show also kind of fits the Hunger Games.
Yep. Excellent.
And possibly Battle Royale. I'm not actually seen Battle Royale, so I can't remember whether it was televised or not.
It might have been. It was certainly less game showy. It was more like a sacrifice than anything.
Right. In that case, yeah, this works a little bit more for Running Man than for Hunger Games, but using a system or an approach similar to Leverage or some sort of heist game. So you've got it's time for the death robot. You basically have a bunch of people who have done whatever it is that got them consigned to this killing in the name of entertainment game show. They're crashing around doing stuff, and the entire reason they're doing it is because it gives them access to something that they wouldn't normally be able to get at, and at some point the tables get turned.
So it is a heist. It's just
it is. Yeah.
Right, so they're using this as an opportunity to get into the wasteland where the game is held to get access to whatever it is. Yeah, that would be really interesting. It's like, and maybe there's those in the know say that death robot, death schmobot. It's a guy in a fancy suit kind of thing, or it's the environment is dangerous enough that just it clanking around and frightening people into making foolish mistakes is enough, and it's just more of a mascot than anything. And then you discover it's like either no, it's your genuine death robot. This is state of the art murder bot, or it's just a guy in a suit. It's a really good suit though. It's gone from narrative impulse directs me to think that the possibility of turning to take control of the robot, turning it around, would be a goal for the characters.
I found myself wondering whether if you went with the somewhat Thunderdome approach, that you've still got this hideous game show, but you have got an apocalyptic thing, and this the death robot is the mascot of the show because it's a leftover from the world before.
Yeah.
And the death robot is the focus of the heist.
Nice. So you've got the last cyberneticist or something like that. I was like, they've just basically put it inside the Colosseum or the whatever place that they've managed to pen it, and they're using it as effectively as a mechanical bull, but as in bullfighting rather than a test of strength / tenacity. And it's just lurching around following its programming. But it is also possibly the most valuable article left in the remaining civilization. No, I like that actually. That's really good. The idea that the infidels feed them to our metal god. Wait a minute. What are they doing?
Why are you stealing our metal god? Hey, come back with that. That's not yours.
Yes. We're still making payments. Nice. I do like that actually. Yeah, they either the corrupt and decadent future Deadly Game show or the post-apocalypse idea, the idea that you're using this obviously obscene waste of human life to your entry into this process to subvert it. I like that. No, that pushes buttons. Death robot buttons.
Yes, because that wasn't creepy at all. So we have stuff on or from the various forums and from a comment. So what order should we attack these in with our death robot powers?
Death robot powers. I will. Let's go with Taz's first, as he got in on the thread. The thread blew up a little bit the last week, which is lovely to see. People, we won't go through all of it because we encourage people who have not checked out Fear the Boot forums to do so and to chuck in their 2 cents or, 2 small novellas worth, depending on who you are.
Yep, we have. Yes, I mean, it all really kicks off with Kitamono chiming in with his background on the Magic Police game that he ran. And
which is disturbing enough to leave in its leave intact in its the state there. He's got pictures and diagrams.
Link in the show notes. Yeah, it is well worth reading. It is yes, and that sort of kicks off a thread. We have a chiming in from Zerka, who somehow checked the specs and informs us that at 100 degrees Fahrenheit, molten Pepsi will eventually dissolve flesh off bone, and at 0 degrees, Diet Mountain Dew does a phase change but still tastes funny. I only have one question, and that is, where on earth can you check the specs of the temperature at which molten Pepsi will dissolve flesh off bone, and indeed, who tests this?
FDA? Makes sense. That, or Ditch's basement, is very well equipped.
What's he building in there?
Death robot?
Yes.
And Taz has provided us with a death robot suggestion of his own, which I will now read. Galvanic Man threw a Herculean punch and literally knocked the vault door off its hinges. Beyond was the final chamber in the gauntlet he had endured. He knew what to expect and strode through the gaping hole in the dust. Lord Blight, next to his few friends, cringed. Those vault doors cost a lot of money and they never seemed to do the job. He straightened his lab coat. Galvanic Man, so we meet again. They both sighed, and by chance said at the same time, "It's time for the death robot." Blight paused, rubber-gloved finger over the button that would launch the multi-ton death machine at Galvanic Man. Have we really become that predictable? Galvanic Man nodded, willed away his metallic skin, seeing the villain had dropped his hand away from the console. This is at least the 8th or 9th time I've had to smash my way in. Have you ever thought of installing a doorbell? His grin highlighted the crease on his face, his greying sideburns looking more distinguished than elderly. Lord Blight rubbed his bald head, his hair lost long ago in single-minded pursuit of cutting-edge science. We seem to be in a rut. Galvanic Man sighed again and sat down the edge of the fallen vault door. True, you'll launch another robot and escape while I smash it to bits. What colour is this one? Gold. It matches the colour of the door you just kicked in. Galvanic Man just shrugged. I did knock. Rex lifted his goggles to his forehead. Have you ever thought about retiring? How can I, with my arch-nemesis still on the loose? What if I call my career quits as well? I have sides to do. It doesn't involve melting the Washington monitors, dissolving good citizens of New York City. Besides, I'm currently dating again. You? I thought card-carrying mad scientists weren't allowed to have a social life. It happens. Well, we can't really shake hands on it. I'm just going to leave through the clever escape route I always have. Galvanic nodded again. Yeah, we are creatures of habit. Have a good day, Kyle. Kyle/Galvanic Man's eyes widened. So you know? It was Lord Blight's turn to shrug. I've known for at least 10 years, but I have no desire to mess with your private life. I might be mad, but I do have my own code of honor. When I say I'll retire if you do, I mean it. Galvanic Man stood up. Have a good life, Rex. Stay out of trouble, and I'll stay in retirement as well. Both men parted. They knew that they would have to mentor a next generation. The next battle would be fought with sidekicks and henchmen.
Nice.
It's a nice little tale. I'm getting a real Mega Man vibe out of the the
Yes.
the fading glories and the again kind of thing. But, yeah, I like it. Yes, thanks.
And yes, just the idea of the sod it. Shall we both just retire because we're done with this shit? Yes, thank you, Zoka. We have from Trigger Happy 938 on the topic of time for the death robot. It is years in the future, but not many. Earth has been largely expended and used up. Arcs to the stars were built, and those with the wealth or influence left Earth long ago. But they did not leave without any thoughts towards possibly returning someday to Earth. Before they left, the best and brightest put into motion a plan that would hopefully return Earth to its former glory and make life better for the poor souls who got left behind. The designated Earth Assistance Technology hard-working robots were equipped with the latest advancements in AI technology. They came in all shapes and sizes, from massive mobile incinerators to swarms of residue-devouring nanomachines. They would return Earth to its former glory alongside the humans left behind, without the means to do so themselves. The remaining humans didn't have the technological know-how to create, repair, or control the bots, but the bots were designed to be smart enough to not need any assistance in their tasks. Things went wrong, but not in the way many doomsaying stranded humans proselytized. There was no great revolt. The robots didn't hold a grudge over their position or have designs on replacing humanity. But their jobs were quite dull, and their evolving intellects quickly reached a point where they thirsted for stimulation. Unfortunately, due to some limitations of AI technology at this point, the robots were incapable of creating material to slake their thirst for mental stimulation. They lacked creative spirit. They could consume media, but they couldn't create it. At first, nobody took all this that seriously. Sometimes a robot would ask to hear a story or something, and oftentimes local humans would oblige, but it wasn't long before the decades of monotonous geoforming overcame the abilities of those disparate anecdotes to break the dull existence the robots were faced with. Like most bored, unhappy employees, their focus began to slip. This is when accidents started to happen. The robots never intended to do harm. That said, it's easy to get into the groove of a repetitive job and miss small details that need your attention. For example, the giant incinerator who was burning through piles of rubbish didn't really notice that shanty amongst the pile of rubbish was in fact a shanty, or that it had a small family in it. Same thing with the nanomachines in an outhouse. It started to become a thing. So humanity realized that despite the fact that it would rather focus on trying to gather food and survive their modern hellscape existence, somebody was going to have to dedicate some time to creating reading materials so that nobody else would get accidentally crushed, incinerated, disintegrated, welded, or harvested. Thus the team went to work getting an old magazine printing factory up and running and producing regular articles for their enjoyment. Your players are a team of magazine delivery persons. It is their responsibility to travel out into the blasted wasteland that Earth has become and distribute these cheaply produced periodicals, avoiding dangerous fauna, weather, environments, and distracted machines. Most humans don't have time to spend on such reading, but occasionally a curious soul asks, what exactly are those things that keep the robot's attention spans sated? You, as company policy, answer dutifully with the company line. It's like time for the death robots. That is such a fantastic setup for that line. Trigger Happy goes on to say, I would probably go with something fairly pulpy for a game like this. You could do a lot worse than Savage Worlds. You could even do Apocalypse World with fairly little modification. Maybe have the psychic maelstrom be something to do with the robots, like you tap into their wireless hive mind for a moment or something. Anything with enough crunch to deal with a scrappy group of people dealing with a wide variety of adventures, consequences, or injuries could do, really. I like the idea that somebody in the group is a writer or reporter who is on assignment to write about the group. They could probably double as the party face or something. With minimal modification, this could also be a mission in Paranoia. Friend Computer requires the troubleshooters to distribute good, wholesome capitalist reading material to the death robots. You like capitalism, don't you, Troubleshooter? You're not a commie mutant traitor, are you? This could easily be a one-shot or a series of episodic adventures. If you're wanting something with a larger overarching story, perhaps there is something more nefarious to the robot's behavior that the party can slowly start uncovering. Maybe that flaw was known to the elite who left, but they saw it as more of a feature. Maybe a way to shut the robots down is discovered, but it becomes a question of stopping this very powerful force for the Earth's recovery or continue living in fear. The possibilities are as endless as the sci-fi post-apocalypse genre. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the idea that the robots are merely unsatisfied with their lot in life, not actively revolting, but just sort of like, feeling a bit blah. It's quite
Yeah.
That's quite easy to sympathise with.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody who's worked that kind of job. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I do imagine that depending on the size of the incinerator bots, what you're eventually going to get is shanty towns on the backs of the giant incinerator bots, because it's the one place that won't get burned.
Also, it's warm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cooking over the incinerator fires.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like a creepy version of Wall-E, but...
It is a little bit. It is a little bit puzzling that there was the one... Were there other trash compact... Oh, there were other trash compacting robots. It was Wall-E was the last one that survived.
Yeah, Wall-E was the one who sort of presumably suffered the sort of breakdowns that were repairable
And
learned how to repair himself.
and didn't just... and possibly slowed him down enough so he didn't winding up in dangerous and places. So...
Yeah, that was always my interpretation, that he was just the last one left by a combination of a little bit of luck and quite a lot of good judgment.
Interesting.
Because he did clearly sort of collect spare parts.
Interesting. So, trying to keep the giant sentient earth-moving equipment entertained, or at least, mollified enough that they do their various tasks around your settlements rather than through. Yeah, it's interesting.
Trying to get an interview with a nano swarm.
That could be exciting. Yeah. There was... I'm trying to think back. There was actually a 2000 AD series called Metalzoic, where the Earth was in a machine age, where basically everything was robot everything. And all of the creatures would be replaced by robot equivalents, and it was an entire ecology. And humans were around, but they kind of were just living in the gaps, like the mammals before the dinosaurs went extinct. And yes, that's quite a violent tale of warring tribes and of machine apes and so forth, and terrible puns with creatures like wieldy beasts. And so forth. Yeah, there was lots of stuff like that.
Zerka did crop up with trying to think up some DEATH acronyms, including Department of Earth Action Team Helpers, Debris Excavation and Trash Haulers, and Duplicitous Extermination Agents for Total Healing. The meek are expendable.
Yes. I like that. I'm looking for a hook for something to, the reason that would drive you to go out and like the central driving thing that would say, okay, we're going to deal with this problem now and this problem, rather and I'm just not sure of it unless it's being directed centrally somehow. It's that your task is to do this thing.
Well, it depends on whether this is local or a global thing. I mean, I'm getting the idea that travel is difficult. That when the elites and everybody left in the Ark, they basically took everything useful and left the things that they didn't think were useful, which includes you.
Yes.
So they're not going to get that greater response when they come back.
There's likely to be a bit of ill feeling, yes.
So it's possible that you're doing articles, magazine articles and that sort of thing potentially on things that the robots might find interesting. So if you sort of realize, okay, there's an enormous kilometer-long compactor, incinerator, composter bot coming directly for this village, well, then what we need is to get it to not come directly for this village. So we need an article about something that isn't here. Or you need an article about the village that makes it sound really, really awesome, so that the bot will at least pay attention to it.
Indeed. So at least yes, a local news thing, or what's directly in your path thing. I wonder with the possibility of the slipping in like terrestrial propaganda about the star bastards, the people who have abandoned the Earth and so forth. So just to start fomenting a revolt.
I like the phrase "the star bastards."
Yeah. The idea of possibly, yes, the forging. Maybe if the guiding principle is forging a relationship between these ostensibly kind of neutral, just doing our job, robots and the humans who are just trying to survive. So they come together to form a more cohesive community, and possibly at some point take out their frustrations on the Star Bastards if they ever decide to come back. Yeah, I think that would be a good sort of guiding principle.
Yes, if you had some capacity, like the Deadlands has a way of affecting the fear rating. I know the Rain game had an enormous amount of stuff in it about affecting kingdoms and that kind of thing. And if you assume that you're sort of trying to modify the way that the bots view the world,
maybe get them to take pride in the job that they're doing, the fact that they're helping the inhabitants and so forth, but feel less sympathetic.
So you can do the recycler bot of the month.
That's what I was actually trying to think of. What would the giant landscaping killdozer version of House and Garden be? Yeah, it's kind of try and come up with publications and features and so forth to really catch the attention of the cybernetics today, and lots of it. So they're trying to cobble together from the ruins of the remaining civilization.
You could have a bit of fun, yes, if you also have some sort of communications network. So your area has been doing this glossy magazine. Some other groups have found a fairly rough and ready business printing press, and so they've been going with something that's a more newsprint, but vastly more regular and really topical. And somebody else still has a working transmitter, so they've been going with interview shows and that kind of thing. We're here at what used to be known as Mount Rushmore in the old geography, where Landscaperbot 357 has just unearthed something interesting. Landscaperbot, can you tell us what you found? Somebody sort of standing in front of a camera, just in front of this sort of camera the size of a dustbin, kind of moves the microphone slightly as Landscaperbot attempts to sound coherent on air.
Yeah, it's probably not their strong suit. Maybe not what they've been designed to. The idea of helping this nascent robot life form. Suggesting it's like, we're all Earthlings. We know what's going on.
We're all in this together.
Indeed. This is it's a worthwhile cause and a good job and so forth. And let's do the best we can. Yay.
Yes, I think I wouldn't want to use Apocalypse World for that version of it, but yes, if you wanted the sort of the grim and gritty reporting version of it, then Psychic Maelstrom as plugging into the communications systems of the bots, so you can get an indication of who's coming from where, what's happening out there, either to get some advance warning on what's coming your way, or possibly to get some advance warning on a scoop.
Yep.
This sort of thing. That's a fun one. That would be interesting. And Savage Worlds or something. Yeah, something a lot more pulpy for the. And now we take you to an interview with version.
It could be. It sounds like a very adventuresome game where you could be, ultimately dealing with protein melting nanoswarms or giant trundling trash compactors and things like that. There could be a little bit of like non-combat oriented swashbuckling going on to get things done.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Thank you very much. Trigger happy, because that's pretty damn cool. There is also a response to Zerka's Galvanic Man versus Lord Blight. We'll chuck in some links, sort of link to the specific bits, but to be honest, it is actually really well worth reading the whole thing. This came in from Tim on the Big Red Couch site itself, and I managed to completely miss the "You've Got Mail" message, for which I am really, really sorry. This is a comment on "Do not miss a visit to the Muse," and reads, "It occurs to me that the Muse liberation idea could be run from the other side. Read muse as bound spirit yearning to be a free spirit, and it almost becomes just another Shadowrun. Although the things required to complete the job could be downright esoteric. An astral quest to unsummon a spirit, perhaps. And of course, that last sentence is almost completely opaque if you aren't familiar with Shadowrun. Yes, I cropped up with an profuse apology. Yeah, because I should have noticed that message and I just didn't. Yes, I had commented that, worryingly perhaps, that last sentence of yours made total sense to me despite not having played Shadowrun this century. I am curious about what happens once the bound spirit becomes free. Depending on what the binding magician was like, there could be a touching scene of, "Thank you for freeing me." Building starts to shake. "Now, run for your life." Because from memory, like I said, I haven't played Shadowrun this century, but I do remember when the idea of free spirits was in one of the supplements, and the GM at the time got really quite into them, which is how our group ended up with a pet Earth elemental based on Elvis Presley.
Right.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I mean, I say pet. Effectively, he hung around and could occasionally be bribed to do things with enormous numbers of cheeseburgers.
Fair enough.
I have no idea how in canon that was, but it was entertaining as hell.
Yeah, it's. I could see it could be a sabotage job because I know that I've seen Shadowrun use bound spirits as security devices in various ways, have them roaming around perimeters and so forth. So if you go, "Hey, you don't want to do that. You want to do whatever the hell you want, Mr. Fire Elemental," that could be problematic for people trying to look after that property.
You just dismantle the security system by freeing the spirits. And alternatively, it brings to mind part of the plot from one of the William Gibson Sprawl trilogies, which basically just has to do with an AI getting the locks taken off, so to speak.
Yeah.
And imagining a circumstance where a bound spirit, because presumably part of the whole binding thing is you're not allowed to escape. I mean, that's kind of the point. But if the spirit was sort of clever enough and patient enough and sneaky enough to set up the circumstance where somebody else sets it free, so effectively it sets up the Shadowrunners to come in and save it.
Right. So the hiring an outside force to secure your freedom rather than is not somehow covered by the various instructions.
I suspect it would have to be a bit subtler than that, but sort of setting up the circumstances so that some external force. Actually, yes, you could link it with the dismantling the security system. Setting up the circumstance so that some external force believes that there is something there that they want, and the only way they can get at it is by dismantling the security system and freeing that spirit. It's potentially an elaborate shell game, and so you maybe have the circumstance of the party come crashing in to achieve their objective. They do the thing. They set fire. They set free the enormously powerful spirit. They look around for the thing that it's supposed to be protecting, and the spirit says, "Oh no, there isn't anything. This was just a means to an end. By the way, you should probably start running now because I'm about to take this entire facility and wrap it up into a baseball." But hey, thanks for the assist.
It would be an interesting way to introduce a new player into your political / magical power struggle. It's like, yay, it's our friend. It scares the living shit out of us, but it's our friend.
Yes, it's an enormously powerful spirit that managed to think its way around being bound. Yeah, this will go well.
Can't see problems
Let's stay
there.
on this guy's side for like ever, all the time.
It could be, it could be interesting. I mean, it sounds like it's a less egregious version of the Shadowrunners get played once more kind of thing that happens quite a lot.
I have never been a huge fan of that one my own self. The Shadowrunner, the Mr. Johnson tries to kill you. Never been a fan.
It appears in the game literature and the game proper. So, but yes, it's not possibly the most well loved trope in the setting.
I think it's possibly because I've just never seen the version of it where a bunch of different Shadowrunners from different groups team up and go and kick the mortal shit out of the Mr. Johnson in question. I've never seen that one happen.
Somehow it's played out in your mind.
It seems reasonable that at some point, if you've got a Mr. Johnson who keeps just betraying and trying to kill people rather than paying them, it's only going to take a couple of times, one time when that doesn't work, or a couple of times when that doesn't work, that what you're just going to get is a team up of, right, let's just go and kick the shit out of him a lot, shall we? Yes, let's.
Well, I would anticipate that while Shadowrunners do not trust one another specifically, they would cheerfully stay in contact regarding the trustworthiness of people who give them jobs. And I would anticipate the kind of work that they do, they would only trust certain people to fix them up with certain kinds of jobs.
Mm.
And it would probably feel a little less like, what are we doing today? Well, the GM's given us exactly one thing to do for the guy we don't like or trust. Nah.
Yeah, we could or not.
I mean, I like a good betrayal. A good heel turn can be a beautiful thing, but it should not be the only flavor of sandwich in the deli. It should come as a heel turn. Not every time you've played Shadowrun, your Mr. Johnson has turned out to be a cyborg, a remotely controlled cyborg infiltrator of some sort. Or just a general dickweasel.
Ooh, nice phrase. I would like to chuck that into a Shadowrunny sort of game. I mean, equally, you could take that and turn it into drop it into any sort of fantasy game fairly easily.
Mm. Or the enemy has a terrible weapon and we must neutralize it, or we must rescue the princess kind of thing. It's like, oh, we've been given a quest to do something, and it's like, actually, we just kind of let the genie out of the bottle, literally, and it was a big ass bottle. It seemed, it would seem extravagant, but maybe not. The players get duped. They have not done precisely what they thought they were going to do, but the recipient of the largesse appreciates them for it slightly, and they have an ally. They got an ally that probably wigs them out, but it's like, we know something about this new entity who's entered the world. Less than we'd like to know, and we're not certain it's the best idea ever. But we're going to roll with it today.
Yeah, let's run with it, because this is not a fight we can win, or even really take useful part in.
Well, it depends. Maybe they choose sides later. Maybe they know stuff that no one else knows because of what they end up doing. It's like, we feel personally involved and responsible, and you crazy. That would be an interesting angle to take. And I do. It is nice for the players to meet with variable levels of success.
Mm.
Sometimes it's we kicked ass at probably something we didn't want to do when how we think about it. Dang.
Or in this case, just a confusing level of success, because they did accomplish the job.
Mm.
The client is the actual client is very happy.
Mm-hmm.
The middleman is probably very happy. The result was achieved.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really the result they were expecting.
Yeah. I like that.
So that's all the response we have?
We have some more, but I think we can save that because we have an exciting. Well, you've got an exciting thing. I've got regular stuff coming up, but you've got Gen Con about. Well, you should be shipping off about the time the episode drops.
Yeah, I mean, this thing will drop. Yeah, New Zealand time at 5 or 6 in the morning, depending on time zone. In the UK, that puts it early evening, late afternoon. So at that point in time, I should be on my way to Heathrow.
Yeah, to face the giant obelisk that wipes your memory. Or is that only incoming? Is that just the...
I think that's only incoming.
Right, departure lounge is fine.
I think it's maybe passport related, or at least it was for me.
Okay.
Because when I came in on my British passport, no problem. It was just a New Zealand passport. I had the complete memory blank.
Right. It's nothing to do with the 18 hours of brutal jet lag.
Yeah, my theory on the mind-wiping obelisk thing is that just I had, at that point, just lost the ability to maintain memory. Though, interestingly, sort of looking at various diary notes for that time period, the memory loss didn't kick in immediately. It was a few, at least sort of one sleep later that it just vanished.
Right. They were not actually, they did not form long-term memories because your brain was just going, nah, screw that.
Pretty much, yeah. Yes, we've got a couple of things that we are saving for the Gen Con retrospective episode because that will be dropping a little bit after Gen Con. Hopefully that will be interesting.
Indeed. Yes. It'll be a long way to go to have no good stories to tell.
That would suck. I'm also hoping to be able to see the full solar eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Because that happens the day after Gen Con.
There's some speculation on, reputable news sites and Twitter that maybe herald the end of the Trump regime. So
I'll make sure that I get a local cell phone plan with some data, and if it turns out that the solar eclipse is a sign of the coming apocalypse, I'll see if I can Skype in and we can sort of do an episode about that.
Indeed, it'll fit with our various favourite tropes quite nicely, I think. Yes. Yeah. So good luck with that. I hope Gen Con goes swimmingly, and yes, you get your return flight before it all descends into madness and ooze.
As do I, and thank you. It's going to be a big one. Gen Con number 50.
Oh, yes. Once you make it back to merry old England, we'll do a recap.
Possibly over cups of tea.
Indeed. Bah, mine's gone cold.
Okay, well, on that note, you definitely need a warmed-up cup of tea. Incidentally, that was a test. If you'd said, yes, I do, I'll put it in the microwave, that's apparently bad. I've been told that. You're not supposed to microwave tea to warm it up again. Or ever.
It doesn't work even if you microwave a little water and put the tea bag in. It's weird. It really is.
That's a little creepy.
It's a bit fizzy. It doesn't quite work.
All right. So thank you for listening to us ramble, audience, and thank you for quite fantastic suggestions for death robots and other things.
Indeed.
And we will be back next time with a Gen Con retrospective, plus anything that didn't make it into this episode, plus anything that comes up since then.
What are they doing outside of your flat?
I'm genuinely not sure.
Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for listening to It's Time for the Death Robot.
Want to hear more of our shenanigans? Then go to hoarde.net and click on the button that looks like a couch. The Big Red Couch is released under Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 3.0 Unported from creativecommons.org. All music on the show comes from the album Universal Fluff Theory by Krakatoa. Visit them at krakatoa.com or follow the link from our page. See you next time.
I'm not sure if you're waiting for me to start or what.
I wasn't going to jump in case you're about to start.
Oh, right. Well, that should actually stay in the episode then. That, I think, encapsulates the core of what the Big Red Couch is really all about. Two yutzes who don't know what they're doing.
I don't think we need to inflict that on anyone.